Asteroid of fear.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Men in the House podcast. And on today's episode, we're gonna talk about my journey, get some more of my story. So, where did we leave off last Wednesday? I think I was leaving Fort Lauderdale. Nope, I had moved from Fort Lauderdale to Gainesville with one of my girlfriends, with her intentions to go to college because I had gone to University of Florida and things weren't great between us, and we lived in a 420 square foot apartment. Yeah, they weren't already great when we moved there. Um, and then I left and I was driving back, and I think I remember referencing that I'm not a big U2 fan. I had a roommate who was, had like 89 albums, and U2 Beautiful Day was on, and I think I left it on. Yeah, because it was very symbolic. The sun was coming up. I feel like it was like around Pensacola. Maybe I was crossing from Pensacola into Alabama. And in this move, I wasn't actually coming back to where I'm from. I was going to Conroe, where Andrew was living, and he was working at Piney Shores at a resort, like a timeshare. And he's like, just move here. And so yeah, I moved there with everything that would fit in my truck, which I've done for years. So basically, like one chair, which I eventually left behind because the springs broke. But my guitar, stereo, CDs, basic stuff like a futon, a bed. I may have even left that. I don't know. But yeah, I moved back and kind of started recovering from that experience. I'm going to turn the heater off. It's getting a little warm. Is this actually dropping quickly here in Texas? The temp. Oh, you could hear a little rattle. And yeah, so I settled in. He had a loft apartment that was pretty sweet. And I was very much into guitar then. And I ultimately found a job at Montgomery County Music Center, which had guitars. They gave guitar lessons, drums. It was real small mom and pop shop type thing, but a lot of band instruments. Like we had our own in-house kind of luthier person who worked on all the bridges on cellos, violins, fixed guitars, all that kind of stuff. But one of the cool things was, I mean, we restringed guitars. Some people gave lessons, and we sold instruments, of course. But then we would go and rent instruments during school band season at the very beginning of school years. And in the summertime, we would actually go and pick up tons of instruments, take them to a storage unit, or several of them, and then we had two repair people in the back. One did like woodwinds, and the other did whatever the others are, like trumpet, trombone kind of stuff. And they repaired instruments all summer. So it was a pretty cool job. I think I was off every Tuesday. It was closed every Sunday. We were open 10 to 6, Monday through Friday, maybe like 10 to 2 on Saturday. And like every Tuesday, I would take guitar lessons. And yeah, it was good. It was a fun job. It was the first time in a long time like I could kind of be myself. I didn't have all the tattoos I have now, but I did have one. But of course, this is 2001, I think it was. Yeah, because this is probably April. Yeah, we go through the summer. And a couple of, significant things that were kind of fun during this time. I mean, one, me and Andrew hanging out, seeing each other again, partying, playing music. It was just kind of work and hang out, work and hang out. And I had good hours, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we were playing plenty of guitar, and I remember going out one night and we went to Mustard's on the lake on Lake Conroe, and we're there's a band there and they're setting up and there's no guitarist, and I'm in the bathroom taking a leak, and the singer's next to me, and I'm like, "Where's the guitarist?" He's like, "Oh, he's not gonna make it. Like, you play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kind of." He's like, "Well, you're gonna play with us," because they had actually played a small set without a guitarist. And so I actually got to play with them, like some old blues, Mustang Sally, different things like that. And then Andrew came up and played bass, and we played this kind of original thing that we played, and he kind of sang over it, which was pretty cool. And they were kind of like this Zydeco type band, like he had the washboard, and yeah, that was pretty cool. That was definitely a highlight. Uh, the one and only time I've ever played in front of people. But that was fun. That was cool. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. We used to have this neighbor named Leon Cargill. He used to own Featherlight Trailers there in Willis. I think he's originally from Athens. He was a country singer. He was funny, giving them the root. He used to always say about the ladies, "Boys, you gonna give her the root?" Ah, he was always talking shit. Um, but he played too, but it was funny. It was the first time I was ever introduced to, well, not really, because at the music store that I worked at, I worked with this lap steel player named Jody. He was like a very, that was his nickname. I forget his real name. But it was kind of a nickname. He was like one of the top steel guitars, like still in Nashville on the list, but he still played on the weekends at 77 years old, played in like a country band. And totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So Leon being a country singer, it's always like, I guess country singers sing or prefer or maybe lean towards a certain key. So it'd always be like, whatever we thought we were gonna play, it'd be like, okay, like Hotel California in this key. It was always like in the key of G or something like that. And that was kind of my first introduction between him and then like Jody, of course, learning that that's kind of how country music worked. And Stormy Cooper was also a regular there and teaching, and he ended up, I think he's the band leader for Roger Krager now. But he started playing with them way back then, just like as a, I think, going out like Thursday through Saturday or Thursday through Sunday, whatever it was. But yeah, him, Wade Wolf, Chad, I forget Chad's name, but he was in a band. But yeah, it was a lot of good times. A lot of good times. And I can remember standing on our balcony one time and Leon was telling us about this girl who was coming over. And a small world. And this girl walks up and it's this girl that Andrew and I went to high school with, Ashley Reed. We're like, holy cow, this is the girl he's been talking about, the girl we went to high school with. And then another girl we went to high school with, her dad might have been a teacher or even a principal or superintendent or something. She was like the apartment leasing manager, Juanita Shoemaker. Yeah, wild. Absolutely banana times. But yeah, it was just kind of I wasn't looking to get in any relationships, anything like that. Um, I had my 25th birthday. I think I just turned 25. Like, yeah, because I came back like maybe April. I want to say it was April, and then turned 25 in June. And the only trouble was I had moved from Florida to Central East Texas, and I spent, I ended up in the ER twice in 6 months with like upper respiratory problems. It was just the allergies were hell on me, and like living near the ocean in Florida, I rarely had any problems. But then moving back, I got super sick. And the second time I was just so sick, like I couldn't work. And I don't know what was going on with work, if maybe they were going to close down. I don't know. But, or I was just that sick. I ended up moving back home. Like I went home temporarily and just ended up staying. It took me a long time to get better. Like I had pleurisy. I felt like I had pneumonia. And so I ended up staying there. And I think it was probably one of those visits where I think I've referenced knowing, seeing people go into a doctor's visit, going, I know that life is better than not life because they're clinging to everything, holding on to everything, wheelchairs, walkers, whatever it is. It has to be because I feel like my mom was taking me to the doctor because I was like so sick, which is probably what made me contemplate all this. And I think, once I recovered from that, I want to probably say that that influenced me to get a job in the ER where I was born. And the person who hired me was somebody my mom had hired like 20 years before. So I got a job in the ER and really enjoyed it because it was military-esque. We go back to some of my other episodes where I talk about, you know, the not knowing, the unknowingness, what could happen next is alluring to me. And restaurant work, military, and now the ER, very similar. So I thrived. I didn't like it that much though, because my mom was kind of well known and I worked with all women, me and the director that hired me. And they were very catty, and it was always like, well, because of your mom, because of your mom. It's like, look, I can stand on my own 2 feet. I got my associate's degree. Like, I've gotten full scholarships. Like, I didn't have to say all that, but that's what I'm thinking is like, look, I can stand on my own merit. Thank you. But during this time, I was like, I'd gotten my associate's degree, had a newfound respect for my health. Health is wealth. Had seen all these people clinging to stuff, life, worked in the ER, and thought maybe I'll go pre-med. And I had some military benefits, so I decided to stop working in the ER but start volunteering because you needed that for medical school. And I would work the front desk every weekend at the main hospital, directing people to rooms and whatnot. And went back to college full time. Now, ultimately, I didn't want to do biology or chemistry. I kind of wanted to deal more with the human body, so I ended up choosing health and kinesiology. This gave me a background in human systems. Um, I got to take pharmacology, healthcare law, a lot of different things like that that I felt were more applicable. But it also gave me a lot of elective room for things like literature, the arts, things that I enjoy. So that was kind of my path. And, during this time, put on some weight, got overly comfortable. And then I was in one of my classes, and there was this guy who was a trainer. And I think I would help him study. And they needed a front desk person at the gym that he worked at. So I interviewed there and took that job. And I was about 35 pounds overweight or more. And, through some tough love and working there and having the benefit of all the trainers, I changed my diet. I lost like, man, 18 to 20 something pounds just eating differently. And then started exercising with some of the trainers. And then ended up working out with somebody I went to high school with. Me and Brian Turner would meet at like 5 a.m., 5:30. So, yeah, that was a good move for me. So thanks, Danny Lyles, if you're out there listening. But yeah, him, Justin Lidke, Kim and Kelly Hitchcock. Um, it was a small gym, very intimate. You got to talk to a lot of the clients. There was doctors, very prominent people within the city. Jack King of King Chevrolet, some oncologists, different people. Uh, it was a good job. I mean, you get to talk to people, you clean the equipment, you get to work out. I would close it. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a good job. I was gelling at that time, getting everything done. Things were going pretty well, I would say. I'd lost a bunch of weight. I was kind of confident again. I was playing guitar, doing my thing, um, exercising. Felt like I was spiritually grounded. And then I remember, I guess I have to tell this, even though my wife may hear it and be like, yeah, but it's part of the story. Um, you know, one of the older ladies, she was in her 40s, and Danny trained her for a bodybuilding competition or fitness thing, and I think she won. She did well. Well, she brought her daughter up there one day, and I thought she was cute. And then next semester starts and turns out, and she's in one of my classes. And the thing I remember most, because I'm kind of nerdy, was she was wearing a shirt that had the chart of periodic elements. But yeah, and then I think she came back with her mom, and I ended up talking to her. And then I think I asked the mom one day when she was at the gym if I could ask her out, and she said yes. And we ended up dating, and you know, that was that was the last relationship before I met my wife, interestingly enough. But, I was kind of in this space, and her and I really liked each other, but her dad did not like me at all. And I think mostly because I was older. She was homeschooled, and so socially different, parents' values different. And then, of course, you see somebody who's, got some tattoos and who's older, um, maybe perceived as a little more of a bad boy, uh, wants to date your daughter. But, some of the things we had in common was she played harp, I played guitar, and we liked to play sometimes together. Um, so we had music in common and school, education, different things like that. She was a person of faith, and I was kind of retouching to my faith at that time. And so that was all very aligned. And, I think everything was pretty well. And then I graduated. So I graduated with my degree in health and kinesiology. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. So the gym I was at didn't have any spots open for trainers. I still needed a certification anyway. But they were like, fine, like you're a good employee. We can continue paying you whatever we're paying you, whatever it was, $10 an hour, you know. But I'm like, now I have my degree, I should be doing more. But they were totally understandable about that, but I didn't lean to that right away. So I think kind of what happened was there was some sort of impasse with that, and had to been something going on in the relationship that made me even seek this out. But one of our childhood friends, Billy, shout out if he's listening, he was the general manager of the resort that Andrew used to work at the first time I lived in Conroe. And I don't know if I sought it out or he reached out to me, but he's like, why don't you come down here and be like a quality assurance person? You'll report to me and the AGM only. And they didn't have the position, so I was like to develop it and turn it into what it would be. And the pay was going to be better and this and that, the other. And he was going to allow me to live on site on the property until I saved enough money to get an apartment. And something had to have, triggered this. And so I took the job. And we kind of stayed together, I think. But I think her dad was kind of like, you're graduated, like you need to go on, like you can't date my daughter anymore, type of thing. I don't know. He just did not like me, and he told me so. And I had conversations with him, and she was going to kind of do her own thing, and maybe we could be together and kind of cut herself off from her parents, but she never did. And but yeah, so it was like some rough time for me. I had graduated in August. I don't know when this was, October, November. Sometime I went down in there, and yeah, it was just the holidays, going through heartbreak, being angry, and I kind of went back to old ways, stepped away from faith a little bit, started drinking a lot because I was just so angry. And that's what I liked about the job is it was very independent. Was there was 175 units, and I would go through and inspect them each day, especially ones that were being checked into, make sure housekeeping cleaned it properly, make sure the TV worked, the lights worked, because if they get into a room, customer gets into a room, something doesn't work, they complain, then they have to upgrade them, and it's lost. So my job was to make sure everything was, and then work with all the managers to make sure everything got done that needed to be fixed. So I would just ride around and inspect units all day. So it allowed me a great deal of freedom and independence, which I enjoyed. And then I eventually became the RCIC coordinator, and I would throw like lunches or breakfasts on Monday and parties on Thursday. But during this time, while I was living on property, um, Billy, who had hired me, had sent over, well, there were some front desk people I think I knew, but I think they'd known I was in the Navy in Japan. And there was an Asian girl who worked there, Vin, who's my wife's best friend. And now, but it's funny because Vin came over to kind of like hang out with me. And, but of course I was still kind of like heartbroken over Tamara. And so, I wasn't really interested. And I don't think she was either. But anywho, that was kind of besides the point. It was like just kind of I was on property, they would get off, come over, hang out. And she brought my wife one night and, wasn't interested because my wife worked there too. They worked together and, neither were interested. And so, yeah. um, Trying to think of where I want to take the story, how much of it I want to go to or take to. So yeah, they come over, hang out a little bit. It's whatever. It's whatever. Um, I eventually get an apartment. Andrew comes down often from wherever he was living at that time. I think New Braunfels. Yeah, New Braunfels. But he helped me move some stuff. But yeah, I lived on property for several months, then got an apartment, and Andrew would come over and I didn't have cable. I would buy like the UFC box sets of the Ultimate Fighter and we'd just binge like the Ultimate Fighter and different things like that. Play guitar, drink a lot. Yeah, and just kind of have some fun. But yeah, we'll get into so let's backpedal a little bit. During this, we were we so my wife and Vin worked at the front desk. I worked with QA for the manager, GM and AGM, so I was always back there quite often. And they did gift exchange Secret Santa. And the funny thing was is I got Gabby and she got me. And this is like we didn't even talk nothing at this time. We just knew who each other were. She'd been over to the unit I was at one time, but we didn't really even talk. So yeah, that was kind of an interesting thing. And then her and I, man, I cannot remember how, when. So we were doing this remodel because all the GMs, AGMs, and front desk people were coming to our resort for a big thing. And we were remodeling the front desk, and we had to decorate all the rooms for all the people and make gift baskets. And uh, Billy put me and my wife on it together. And I don't know if it was in this time or a different time. I don't know. All I know is I was at my apartment. I was already in bed. I hear a knock on the door. I put my robe on. I had my sleep mask on. I put my sleep mask up and answer the door, and it's Gabby. And she was like asking me if I wanted to go out and do something. And I was like, I'm in my robe. Like, no, I'm in bed. And so she leaves because I don't even know how she knew where I lived or if we were working on a project together, if that's how we were familiar, or I have no idea. Then I think I go back to bed, more than likely at that time because I was still kind of broken up over Tamara. Slightly, I was probably drinking, and that's probably why I was in bed early. Probably got off, drank a little bit, made something to eat, and went to bed. I go back to bed, and then I hear a knock again. Same routine, open the door, it's Gabby. And I have to mention the first time they came over, her and Vin came when I was living on property still, which probably had to have been November or December. I think, Gabby was in the process of her and Hector were separated. Like whatever had happened that split them up had recently happened. And that's kind of why she wasn't going home and why she came over. And so I think I knew that. And that's, she came back and we sat on the couch and I think she laid down. I gave her a blanket and a pillow and she slept on the couch and I went back to my room. Yeah, that's how I met my wife. And then somewhere in there, we ended up hooking up somewhere. And I don't know if it was, I know it was after she slept on the couch, but I can't remember where it was in this remodel because I know we had done the baskets and stuff and we had kind of finished. And I think I'd gotten a phone call from Billy and he was like, hey, he was asking me about something for a basket. And then he's like, Oh, I'll get Gabby to do it since you're having dinner. And I was like, oh, well, she's with me. So the cat was out of the bag then. Yeah, the cat was out of the bag. That's when I guess it was kind of known or official. Speaking of which, we're coming up on our anniversary, December 22nd. It'll be 12 years married. April 1st, we'll be 19 years together. Um, but yeah, somewhere in there, and we got put on that project together, and somehow we grew fond of each other, I guess. But outside of that, you know, I guess very early on in the relationship, going to watch some fights or this or that, the other. I remember in the parking lot at Wolfie's one night just telling her, like, hey, like, look, he's your ex-husband, whatever, he's always going to be there. Y'all have kids together. He's always going to be a part of their life, your life, whatever. So I'm not trying to be about this or that, whatever it was. And that's, that was my thing. He didn't know that at the time. But yeah, that's what I told her. That was kind of my understanding of it because they were in the process of divorcing. They were separated. Yeah, we had a lot of good times. A lot of good times in that apartment. We worked together. Man, lots of partying, lots of drinking, lots of debauchery. Because I mean, I guess we were serious, but not overly serious. Not really. I mean, I was coming out of one relationship. She was coming out of a marriage. So I think we were just two hurt, broken people, probably trauma bonding. And here we are 18 years later with a daughter who just turned 11. Yeah, we had a lot of fun in that apartment at River Point. I might have even got fined, almost kicked out for mooning someone at the pool. Not my finest moment. Hmm. But my apartment overlooked the pool. That was the great thing. It was on the third floor, and I had a little love seat on the balcony, and I drank a lot back then, but I could just pass out on that little love seat because you could hear the waterfall. It was a pool with a waterfall, a hot tub waterfall type thing. Very peaceful. And then my wife threw me my 30th birthday party. She took down a whole 4 units, two top, two bottom, to much to my surprise. And she got me a Ben and Jerry's ice cream cake. Drove far out of her way, invited a bunch of people, and that was quite a fun time too. Very thoughtful of her. She's like that. That's one thing about her. Christmas, holidays, birthdays, she goes big. She doesn't really for me anymore, but I'm pretty sure I don't ask her to or I don't like it. I mean, one year we were in Myrtle Beach for my birthday, but I think this year we got massages. Maybe something else. Yeah, she does that big. Yeah, took down a whole unit, set it all up, invited a whole bunch of people, went all night long. Lots of debauchery. It was the Dirty 30, 100%. And I think we'll leave it there. That would take us to June and uh, the Dirty 30. And I think I probably parted shortly after, and we can get into that little area of the story. Or should I just go ahead and take it there? Yeah, we'll take it there. We'll go to the next location. So, yeah, from Texas to Conroe, a breakup, now trauma bonding with my now wife, both of us coming off of other situations. And I don't know. Maybe I just didn't see myself there, but it was kind of this thing again of maybe I was very isolated. Billy was married. I didn't really have friends there. Andrew was in New Braunfels. He'd come over quite a bit, and I would go over there. And I did have Gabby at that time, but it had to have been kind of before. And, again, when I look back at it now, like 18 years later, both of us coming out of things like we couldn't have been that serious. But I decided to move to New Braunfels, and I broke up with Gabby. Yeah, that silence is kind of the pain I feel over that because I think it was difficult then, but when I look back at my logic, I go, okay, maybe I wasn't going to do that forever. I was isolated. Andrew, my best friend, was over there in New Braunfels. I did have Gabby, but of course, maybe I didn't think we were serious. And she had kids. And there was no way, like, I wanted to move. I'm not going to ask her to leave her kids and come be with me. Like, I'm not that person. So I broke up with her because I thought that was the right thing to do. I'm not asking you to move with me. I'm not asking you to leave your kids. I'm moving to New Braunfels, and that's kind of that. This is where it ends. And that was hard. But obviously, we got back together. And I guess we'll start the New Braunfels leg of the journey on the next episode. So, until then, go out and be the person that you would want to meet.
Let go. Asteroid of fear.